think the show becomes more authentic when I speak from the heart because I am not one of those people who can like script what they're going to say outside of my reels and talk and feel like I'm talking to someone. I get that it takes a lot to be not just an influencer, but a presence in a digital space. But I think I'm awkward still, so it's really weird to show up and say, "Hi guys, this is me," and blah blah blah. Like, I know people have to put on alter egos, but I think for me, it's important for me to show up in this space authentically as possible because perfection isn't real. It might look away for certain people or not all people. For example, I just noticed my microphone wasn't on all the way. I could have stopped and made it, let me perfect this real quick, but why? Like, it's not necessary. This is real life. I'm not here to create a perfect model. I'm just here to talk about life. So it's been some days. There's a few things I want to talk about today, but one of them being I'm not good with routine. I'm not at all. And I think sometimes we're programmed into thinking, well, if we just have a routine of doing X, Y, and Z every day, then everything will be perfect. And I don't think that that is realistic, especially for the waves of emotions that people go through, especially with different things that have happened in their lives, like telling them you just got to be consistent every single day. That's scary. Like, if someone told me you have to live your life the same way every single day, I'd be like, well, that's kind of boring. I think we should just arrive at each day with a goal in mind. And when I say a goal, I mean something simple, like I choose to be at peace today, or I choose to have happiness today, or I choose to find at least the good in one thing. I think like putting all that pressure, because I know from doing it to myself and maybe things that you've seen me post on here, like I'll say, yeah, just listen to a hard ass motivational video in the morning, take that pre-workout and go. And don't get me wrong, like I've highly judged myself before saying, that's just another excuse for lazy. But lazy and creative always seem to fall under the same trope for some reason. And I think because creatives had this high sense of intuition, it was almost easier to get them to be quiet rather than to keep going, which is why like artists had an act of rebellion, like long before this time. It was about being here in this moment and now and fighting for, your passions or for your family or for your home. It was an act of resistance. So I think that's why they charge millions of dollars for it now. But for the past few days, I've kind of felt myself like shifting back because I was on like this hardcore workout routine. And then somewhere along the line, like I couldn't even tell you what day, it felt like I'm slowly going backwards. And I think you have to be okay with that. I like to not compare myself, but I'm a water sign. So I love the ocean naturally. I love any body of water. And I remember last year when we took a family trip to the ocean, I took my son out there. We were sitting in the water and it was going back and forth, tides just coming in. Some would come in really strong, some would come in really light, and they would just come and go, come and go. And I thought that this really is like life. Like, it's not just a silly metaphor. It can come in big waves and then calm down. It can come in medium waves and then big crashes and calm down again. And that's how I feel about it. Like, especially when it comes to achieving things, if I'm being like authentic with you all and myself, that you have big wins and then you're like, okay, when's the next thing gonna come? And then you have smaller wins and you're like, okay, well, when's this gonna be over? And then you have the sadness and depression and then you say, okay, well, when is this gonna be over? And that constant like searching or needing something to happen in your life, I think keeps a lot of us disconnected from what we can truly see and feel. And I learned that in my time away from not using any kind of plant medicine. I do not think that this makes me, better than anybody. I don't think it's a noble act. I think it was just something I had to do for myself because I've always said this, like most things, it's a tool. Working with sacred medicines, they're tools to help us, but it's not like the end all be all. Like, we don't have to go to it every time. They're teachers. So when have you known a teacher to ever like turn you away and say, no, I don't want to hear anything you have to say today? Like, some of us, if we had favorite teachers growing up, we could still walk into their classroom today and they'd be so happy to see us. Even if they didn't remember us, they'd be like, oh, I remember it from you from whatever year. And that's because teachers, they're here to guide you and to refresh you on the lesson. Sometimes they're here to teach you something and let you go out into the world and figure it out for yourself. But a teacher never stops being a teacher. And I view myself that way. It's just, sometimes I gotta say, wake up. It's time to do some work again. And it feels like, oh, I'm preparing for this big life event. But it's like, no, you're not preparing for a big life event. They're just tides in life that you need to prepare for. For example, like, I have children and they're getting older every day. There's no like one big moment I'm waiting on, like the day they leave my house, because it's not marked on my calendar. The day River and Luna walk out of the house, I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know, when the day is going to come where Luna walks for the first time. I don't know the day that River's going to get his first kiss. I don't know any of those things yet. And it's just like the day to day we can't plan for. I can mark a day on a calendar and say, this is the day that I want to officially get $5 million. And that very well may happen, like, as I'm signaling that to the universe, but I didn't say how I wanted it. I didn't say if I was going to get to keep it. I didn't get to say, like, I wasn't very specific about it. And I have no plan with it. So, like, when it comes to goals and achieving, there's this separateness created that I've seen. Like, we're so connected to something outside of ourselves that we're not really looking within anymore. And I have done this plenty of times, but still do it at times where, I'm looking at this attainable object on the outside of me. And I think it's just like a signal to self saying, hey, this is something that you want because you either feel like it's going to bring you happiness. Maybe on some other timeline, you've achieved this. Like, who knows why things happen in the order that they happen in your life. But I think answering the call is really important. Like today, I was supposed to get up and work out. I've been really lazy with it lately. But instead, I decided to take the time that my kids are asleep and my husband is working to record a video and talk about things that have been on my mind and my heart. And yes, I have big dreams of building this platform to something huge. I really don't know what that looks like for me right now. I don't have anything in place. And one thing I noticed when I listen to like people who have been working in the field of spirituality and religion for a really long time is, number one, they understand that there's this same flow like I'm telling you about. There's no like expected date where something can happen. You just have to keep doing every single day. And I take that into my own life and say, okay, don't make your work about the goal. Make it about the service. Make it about talking. So as someone who spends like a lot of time alone, I want to make this video about connecting with other people. I want to make it about helping them heal. I want to help them kind of see themselves, because a lot of life is just reflecting at what happened the day before, the year before, being present in the moment, not getting drawn like one way or the other, like things that haven't happened yet or things that have already happened. So yesterday I found myself listening to Ram Dass, and this was someone I listened to like at the beginning of my spiritual journey, when I was just looking for people to talk to. And of course, like tons of gurus come up. I don't even necessarily like that word so much, because I think like at least in Western civilization and on social media, we look at them as just like thieves and all of that. And I think like if you take the time to go learn from other spiritualities and cultures and religions, and you're respectful about it, then it shouldn't be considered stealing. But what I will say is, like, because colonization is such a big thing, that we have to be very careful in the ways that we talk about things. So Be Here Now was one of the first works I read, but it wasn't until later on, like, I started uncovering more books that would dig deep further into, the history of where all these came from, so I can make sure I wasn't just getting the knowledge from some random person who said, they knew the key to life. Like, but again, that's a teacher thing. These gurus, they also have teachers, and I'm not saying they're all perfect. I don't think any of us are, but they have people that they learn from. So in the talk that I listened to, it was really good. It was talking about addiction. And I don't want to keep this video too long today, but I will say one of the reasons that I stopped working with psychedelics in particular was because the first time that I ever tried them, I was 19 years old. I tried LSD, and it was an experience that I still remember to this day. Like, I'll never forget it. That's how big and pivotal it was. Also lasted like 12 to 16 hours. Now, I don't remember too many like huge life events from that time in my life, but that was one of them. And I didn't go on to try them again for about 5 years. And it was just because I was like, I never want to do that again. That was so much. So now, after last year and discovering microdosing and working with psilocybin, I've realized, like, even if you chop up this huge experience into small itty bitty pieces every day, it can become an addictive process. Like, I'm addicted to healing. I'm addicted to fixing myself. I'm addicted to being better. And it's not always about being better. It's not always about fixing yourself. It's not always about self-improvement. Sometimes it's about just learning to be. And I realize that if I continue to take every single day, even on the on-offs, because they do, a lot of people who do study this deeply, they recommend going off for like 30 days and then trying it again, or on-off cycles. And for me, like, because I have a scene addiction quite a few times, I just figured that it was best for me to incorporate things into my cycle that come like in small spurts rather than big ones. Because like I said, it's the same thing with life. We're looking for these huge experiences. And I think that I'm really grateful that I haven't had like huge traumatic things happen to me, at least not in my opinion, that affect me, but I know other people do. So that's probably why they need to microdose more. People are in pain all over the world, and you never know somebody's background or what may have happened to them, their coping skills, how, their day-to-day has looked for them maybe the past like 10, 15 years, because we're just reliving the same day every single day and figuring out new things. We have so many, I don't even know how many thoughts they say runs through the human mind, but I know it has to be somewhere. Like, a good majority of them are just repeated thoughts from every single day. Which is why like affirmations are important, which is why, telling yourself, things of love, telling yourself, I love you for who you are. I love you for the dark and the light. I love you for just being you. I think we need to all work on telling ourselves that more every single day, because we also put these big expectations. Like, if you don't become, and this is me, like, I'm talking about my own stuff. If you don't become like a rich, well-known author, podcaster, then you're not worthy. And that's not true. It's not true at all. I don't think there's any amount of fame or money that I could attain that would make me feel whole. I have to be able to do that myself. I can't look to, some big goal or achievement in order to make me see myself for who I am. Ever since that LSD trip, I've thought so much about death, and not in like I hate my life, I want to kill myself kind of way. I think about, what will my life look like at the very end? When I look back, am I going to look at the achievements or look at the things that I'm excited and happy that I did? I'm happy that I've fallen in love in this life. I'm happy that I have children. I'm happy that I've taken chances and I've done things that I don't see most people do. It's given me this sense of fulfillment and excitement that I was not afraid to explore every corner of this universe. I am really excited to look back at the end of my life. And I think like the journey isn't just the day to day and figuring out why we're here, what we're here to do. I did hear that in the Ram Dass video, because I know I kind of like went off track with that a little bit. But one of the quotes, I wrote it down so I didn't forget it. They said, doing drugs will allow you to be in the presence of Christ, but you can only stay 2 minutes. And I laughed at this because that's exactly what it's felt like with anything I've tried, like DMT, psilocybin, LSD, anything like that. Like, it gives you this crazy connection to the world outside of ourselves, but that is parallel to this one. But when it's over, it's like you flew all the way up in the sky and then you just drop right back down into earth again, into reality. And I don't want to constantly seek heaven all the time. I want to learn to create heaven here. One of my favorite songs I like to play, like when I'm in my music mood, is Heaven's Here on Earth by Tracy Chapman. And creating, those moments in this life every day, that's what it's about. Creation, loving the experience of being a human. Like, how crazy is it that we can wake up every day and just choose what we want to do? I think I scare like my mom sometimes when I do that, because like yesterday I said, I think I want to go back to school. I think I want to teach philosophy. And she just got quiet. And she's told me this before. She'll be like, Taylor, you just do so much random stuff. Like, I couldn't even tell you guys like how much random stuff I've done in the past 10 years. And I feel like I'm so boring because I don't do any of it anymore. I'm like a homebody because of my kids now. But that's another thing that's beautiful. I don't have to be a homebody with my kids. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about taking up photography again, because that's something that made me really, really happy. Before I had a family, that was something that would like fulfill me and wake my soul up. And I was thinking like, oh, I can't be a photographer because I have kids now. Like, we can't go anywhere. And then the creative part of me said, no, you've seen people like literally strap their kids to their back and go out and see the world. Why can't you do that? Now, I don't know how that's going to happen yet, but I know that if I manifest that, if I say I want a life where I take my children to see the world, at some point it's going to happen, because I put it out there in the universe. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm still here and it hasn't happened yet. And why hasn't it happened? But it's like, give it time. I asked for those kids. And when I asked for those kids, I was sleeping on a friend's couch, taking the bus everywhere, walking in some cheap Walmart flats to the store, like writing, I want to manifest a beautiful family. And now I have 2 beautiful babies and they're sleeping. I have a beautiful husband who's working out right now at the gym. Like, we left a neighborhood that he had grown up in his entire life to come live somewhere new and try new things. So that part of me has never really died. It's always been here. It's not going anywhere. It's just like I said, we use tools to wake us up again. I used cannabis to wake myself up again. But that doesn't mean I have to like, okay, gotta smoke every day, wake myself up again. You just have to turn on that part of your brain. And I know that doesn't work for everybody. I'm just saying, like, for people like me, once you turn that part on your brain, one, understand cycles. Understand it's not gonna last forever. You get to be in the presence of Christ consciousness or whatever it is for 2 minutes. You have to learn how to implement things in between and know that you're not gonna experience the highest highs all the time. You're not gonna experience the lowest lows all the time. Life comes in waves. It is not linear. It's not like, okay, wake up, brush your teeth. Like, this isn't The Sims. This isn't Free Guy. This isn't The Truman Show. Like, the day you choose to do something different. And that's the last thing I'll say. A couple days ago, we watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is a great movie. It was really weird in some parts to me, but I did like it. I appreciated the message. And I won't talk about the movie too much, but I will say, like, so the main character is in charge of like saving their reality or their dimension from someone else trying to take over. And one of the ways that they get their powers to fight, off crime, or I don't want to say crime, but the bad guys, is they have to do something completely outlandish from what they normally do. And that kind of like stuck out to me, because in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, you have to completely like ditch your everyday routine in order to experience something new. So it doesn't matter if I get up and I'm consistently making videos every single day. It's the day that I decide, okay, instead of this, I'm going to do this. And that opens up a new doorway to a new universe, to a new reality for you to experience something new. So it's a gateway drug, but it's a gateway to breaking through barriers. But once you figure out how to knock down those walls without the tools, and I'm going to give you one more analogy just to kind of, if I'm losing anybody. Let's say you have several walls and you're trying to get outside. You break down the first wall with a hammer. Okay, that was easy. Made the wall go down. But the next one, the hammer doesn't work. It's a little thicker. So instead of using the hammer, you're like, well, I know if I apply the same kind of force, but maybe if I use this tool, it works. So you use that tool and it works. You have to hit it a few more times, but it works. So then you get to the last wall, the wall that's, leading to outside, or just another one, let's say. And all you have are your 2 hands, and you're saying, well, how do I break this wall with just my hands? If I apply this, and this, the wall will dismantle. And that's the part that has stuck out to me the most about like learning to not have to rely on tools all the time, not to never use them again, but not to rely on tools to help save me. I'm the key to my own salvation. And I'd say that with the utmost humility and respect. No one else and nothing else can save you. That is what I have learned from every spiritual teacher that I've had. The tools within you, the universe that you're so scared of, and the outside, and all these bad things, this is all going on inside of you. You know, we're experiencing so many different lives and realities right now that I think it can get confusing, especially when you're participating in different medicines that, you know, sometimes you can lose your grip on reality, especially if you're not someone who was raised in this. In the Western world, we don't live like indigenous people. I think we like to try to think that we do, but because we have things like these screens, our minds are never going to operate the same. So the way in which we use these tools is not going to be the same. So I said a lot today. I'm happy I got back on here. I'm glad I'm talking again. I'm glad that I could just be in this space and be myself. I didn't have to say, hey guys, but I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I will ask that. I have a lot of offerings actually. I have an affirmation track. I have an affirmation album that you can check out on all streaming platforms under the Soundbowl Mom. That's my music moniker. And I'm also coming out with a course soon called the Psychedelic Approach to Motherhood, where I'll talk about not how to trip, but how to use the same tools that you learn through having journeys with sacred medicine and use them to cope and live through parenting. So thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon. Peace.